Today, folks, are you setting yourself up to be a generational bag holder? Of course. I'm being hyperbolic, but on the back of some of these earnings that absolutely blow my mind, I still think we're seeing this permeation of overhype AI stocks. And as an investor that wants to outperform the market, I'm letting the S&P mostly adjust the weightings in this insane valued market. But I want to pick some individual stocks that I think have the opportunity to help me outperform, as the wife and I have been picking up stocks on the back of earnings, and I want to talk about those stocks in this video. So if you're on a path to financial independence, if you want to retire early, hit that like, because I got a special treat for you here. We're bringing in Neil deGrasse to basically give you a quote that I think really sits with my thesis on the current market environment.
Okay. When you are on the frontier, most of the time you're wrong. Right. Because there's not enough evidence, or the quality of the evidence doesn't justify being right. All you can say is this may be the case. I think it's this. And then someone has better data or more data, and they show you that you're wrong.
Now, I really want to bring this up because on the back of earnings, I want to do some comparable value metrics, and then we'll talk about my concerns with Tesla that should have cratered, in my humble opinion, on the recent earnings. But I just want to show you the value of what you're getting into the future, because everyone knows the price to earnings multiple projects out if the company doesn't grow and it doesn't shrink, how long will it take for me to get a full rate of return? And Tesla's sitting in the hundreds. I mean, this thing has been all over the place, but in the 100+ year range if Tesla does not grow, and it's already sitting at 1.2 trillion. And I want to put this in a comparable value because it wasn't that long ago Meta and Tesla were trading at very close market caps, but Meta's obviously started to propel much higher, and I think it's well deserved. But let's just take a look, because Meta is one of the largest positions that the wife and I own. It's something that we've held for years, and I'm very thankful because the company is starting to prove a new growth vector. But in comparable to Tesla, it's almost jaw-droppingly laughable, in my opinion, where you see the value in this current market environment. Because I mean, just take a look at Tesla's revenue, 25.7 billion. Meta for the quarter, this quarter, did 48, almost double the amount, and that revenue was growing at a 21% clip, whereas Tesla sees a 2% growth in its current revenue, which is almost laughable. I mean, if you take a look at operating margin, 48% for Meta and only 6.2% for Tesla. That operating margin is absolutely abysmal. I mean, look at net income, 20.8 billion for Meta and only a measly 2.3 billion for Tesla. There is a 10x difference on earnings and value to shareholders between Tesla and Meta, two companies that trade at hyper similar market caps but wildly different value metrics. And I'm a guy that has made a huge bag. I mean, I made a small fortune off Tesla coming through the initial hype cycle, but after Elon overpromised and underdelivered, I cannot hold a stock like this until it comes back down to a reasonable value, probably somewhere between the 1 and 150 range. And you can argue with me about that all you'd like, but you have to recognize that Elon said you'd flick a switch and all these cars on the road would become self-driving and you could use them in a taxi network. That's not going to happen. In fact, if you owned a Tesla since 2019, the hardware is outdated and it's likely you're going to have to upgrade it. And Tesla right now is still, I think, behind Google at the expansion of self-driving when it comes to regulators, because Waymo is announcing that they're expanding into 10 new cities. Right now, obviously this is gradual, but these business models take a long time to prove out what the value is going to look like. And honestly, I think Tesla's priced in all of that. And I don't think there's any growth coming out of Tesla for the next 3 to 5 years, even with the robotics that somehow people think are worth trillions of dollars. But when you look at the revenue Google and Apple are generating, Microsoft, all these companies are generating, money that Tesla's not going to see at least for the next decade, right? So how can Tesla trade at 100 PE when it gets to the same market cap range of, say, something like Google? It just doesn't seem logical when they're running very similar businesses. And obviously it's debatable on how much of a leader Tesla truly is when they don't have scale in their auto business anymore. Remember, infinite demand for our cars. No one will stop buying them, and now they've reached their peak for basically growth, and they're running into competition issues with BYD, many other Chinese competitors, where China remains one of their biggest markets. But again, I'm not trying to crap on Tesla. I believe they can grow into that value. There's just so much damn risk. It's not worth the valuation anymore. And any sensible investor should recognize that, which makes me wonder who's holding this generational bag, right? Now, let me just do a quick comparable, because I bought Google today, and I'm breaking my rule here of making Google larger than a 5% position between the wife and I's accounts. And I think it's more appropriate because I think Google is largely underappreciated in this market environment, should be trading closer to a $4 trillion market cap. I don't know if it grows into that, but people should recognize that when earnings hit, I think it's going to be jaw-dropping at best when you compare it to Microsoft. Microsoft posted really great earnings, nothing astounding, but more in line with what their historical averages have been. And at the scale of Microsoft, you can't complain about that. And the problem is like Apple, it trades at much too high of a valuation, and somehow the market corrects it, unlike Tesla. But at a 33 times multiple, I think we're still overvalued to some extent here. But it's nice seeing that we're seeing earnings go up, stock value come down. That's exactly what you want to see as a long-term shareholder in Microsoft, especially if you continue to buy more shares in it, right? But let's just do a quick one-to-one comparison on what should be the largest company in the world, which is Google, right? I think Google should comparably be the largest company. It outdoes Apple in earnings. It outdoes every Mag 7 company. I mean, look at their last quarter. This isn't even updated because Google doesn't post till next week. But Google has revenues of $88 billion. To put that in perspective, look at the 3-month ending for Microsoft. They only did $69 billion. And they had basically a net income. If we just do a quick comparable here, let's just take a look and find it. A net income of $24.1 billion. Google's last quarter was 28.5 billion, and they're expanding their operating margin from 28% to 32%. I can't wait to see what this next quarter looks like. I think the value of attention is just so paramount in this market environment that people have underappreciated the value of these companies when it comes to the networking. Like, it doesn't matter. I think networking for any business now is more prevalent than anything. Like, even if you're an Amazon store or Shopify, you still need to market these businesses, and you're going to be doing it through these traditional business models of YouTube that is making new multi-billion-dollar brands, and Google has to put no input into it at all. I don't think people appreciate the growth vectors with Google and Microsoft and some of these cloud data centers, but this is why Google is becoming the largest weighted single stock position between the wife and I, and it is scaling in our portfolios. Whether I buy more is debatable. Between the wife and I, we now own 100 shares, which to some people might be small, but for somebody that's looking to preserve wealth, I'm very, very happy with that, and I think it's actually going to mitigate some of the overvaluations if AI starts to correct, because Google, I think, would drop far less than some of these other hype-based companies. And even when you look at the underlying asset values of these companies, it's utterly insane. A company like Google here, I can't wait to see what their receivables look like. I mean, this is a company that was sitting on $93 billion in basic cash. I mean, just absolutely absurd. $430 billion of total assets against a total liability of $116 billion. So they have well over $300 billion, $315 billion in underlying assets, which even on Microsoft's last quarter, if we take a look at assets minus liabilities, for this quarter here, $533 billion minus 230 gives them 300. So Google, even on their last quarter, still has more asset value than Microsoft. And think about that. Microsoft trades at a $3 trillion market, and Google's only trading at 2.4 billion. This is so disconnected to me. And Google is such a diverse business of Android, all these foundational businesses, and then they've got quantum computing, self-driving, and genomic editing, like things that I think far outweigh the value of Tesla in today's market environment. Yet people just do not appreciate it. And I think it's starting a generational, again, I'm being hyperbolic. I just think for the next 5 years, Tesla's fully priced in. And I think people are going to be sorely disappointed when the continue overpromise, underdeliver comes into play. And there's no way the total addressable market of the taxi network, Tesla's going to absorb that entire industry in the coming 5 years. It's just not 5-10 years. It's going to take so much longer than that. So I want to own Tesla. Don't get me wrong. It's just not at this value when Meta and Google are screaming buys, AI leaders that trade at far more favorable values. So I will be updating you guys tomorrow or on Sunday with my entire portfolios. We try and do Sunday night live streams. I think that's where we'll have more broad-based conversations about what we're talking about over the week. So if you'd like to be a part of that, subscribe Sundays at 9. But stay cool, stay awesome, and as always, I look forward to catching you in the next one.